So both Joe's Normonics and Darwin's hamster have asked the same question, and I meant to answer Darwin's hamster's original question a while ago, but I guess it just slipped my mind. But Joe Normonics has re-asked the question, and it's basically, what am I really saying that science needs to do? Just acknowledge that these um, spiritual aspects of reality exist and are just as objectively real as the physical phenomena that science can investigate, or am I actually saying that science should try to investigate these spiritual aspects? Now, it seems at first that for science to investigate these spiritual aspects, if it found that they existed, they would then become physically measurable, describable aspects of the world of time and space that science has already investigated quite deeply. And that's true. And I don't have a stock answer for this. I've been thinking about this question myself, and I'm weighing both sides of this. And I think it's really easy just to say, yeah, science just needs to acknowledge that these states exist. But really, I don't have so much a problem with science and I don't even know what we mean exactly by that word. There's a method, a scientific method that means very basically something has to be empirical and testable, repeatable. And empirical just means based on experience, right? Does it necessarily have to be experienced through one of the five senses? Because if that's the case, then spiritual states and mystical consciousness seems to be, I mean, we would call it a sixth sense, and that sounds, like a little, what's the word, a little too gooey, maybe a little too fluffy. What do we mean by sixth sense? Well, the mind is something. The mind is what sees. The mind is what thinks. The mind is, what seems to be behind the senses, even though I don't even want to talk about it that way because most of my videos are also about getting rid of that distinction between the mind and the body. And I think that's the real heart of this issue, is that science, for so long, has looked at the world, the body, matter, the physical stuff out there in time and space, as somehow separate from the eye which observes them. But it's not. The mind, whatever it is, and the body, whatever it is, they're one process. And science and the scientific method is really just beginning to take that into consideration. And, whatever the cause of it is, I mean, Gene Gebser says the cause is we're just becoming more aware of time, and time is inherently um, an intriguing aspect of existence that isn't there for us to just observe. We have to observe our own consciousness to be aware of time. And we can of course make a machine that keeps track of time and this by breaking it up like a calculus and dividing it into digits and stuff. But that's not time as we experience it. Time as we experience it requires this um, turning inward of our awareness and really becoming a mirror to ourselves, and that's self-consciousness. And this is all connected with Einstein's relativity theory and quantum physics, and the sciences have really changed in the past 60, 70, 80 years. Changed a lot from the original scientific paradigm, which was Newtonianism or Cartesian dualism, and science is starting to acknowledge that there's not a separation between mind and matter, and that there's not a separation between time and space, and it's beginning to recontextualize itself. And I'm just trying to help that process along. Science is going to take care of it itself, and I'm not really worried about that. The only sense of urgency I have is for society at large, because society at large is still Newtonian in a lot of ways. Society at large hasn't taken the new science into consideration. It hasn't taken systems theory into consideration. It hasn't even taken relativity into consideration. a small sector of society has, and you could say those are the progressives, those are the brights, those are the people that want to get rid of our feelings of separation from the world and start moving towards more integration with nature and with each other. And that's a positive development, and I'm glad that that's happening. And by brights, I didn't mean the atheist group. I just mean in general people that are moving towards these more holistic, more integral, more dynamic views and understandings of reality. Because the original science, the Baconian, Newtonian, Cartesian science, was a simplification of nature, a mechanization of nature. And it turns out that the process going on is a lot more complex than that. It's a lot more dynamic. It's a lot more difficult for us to not interfere with it than we originally suspected. Reality is not a laboratory, and we can never account for every variable. I think our meteorologists probably have some of the most advanced systems, computers, and complex systems programs and simulations, and yet they continuously, year after year, they don't seem to be getting any better at predicting the weather. So the new science isn't based on the mechanical reduction of reality to these very specific rules. We can't predict exactly what's going to happen in every case. The new science is based on probability, and we can build models that, within a certain degree, within a certain percentage range of variation, we can predict where nature will be, however many steps down the road. But it's not as accurate as the original intent of science was. Science originally thought it could have total, perfect understanding of some objective reality, and that's not really the aim anymore. There is no matter anymore. We can't really reduce nature to one law. That's still basically theism. And the science that first came out of the Catholic Church, the Cartesian science, the Baconian science, that science was still monotheistic, and it was looking for the one truth. And science can't say that anymore. Science doesn't find the one truth. Science just reveals all these varying patterns that, if we want to focus on one specific area, we can understand the pattern in a general way, and it allows us to interact with and understand that particular aspect in a more in-depth way. And we can build interesting technologies with that understanding. We can build ecologically beneficial technologies with that kind of understanding. Whereas the mechanical science doesn't want to blend into nature. The mechanical science wants to figure out how to take shortcuts and bypass the natural way. So yeah, hopefully I answered the question. Let me know if I left anything out, or let me know if I raised new questions. So yeah, thanks for listening. Oh yeah, and Normonics, I like the video. Keep it up, man. You'll get used to the whole recording your face thing. It's an interesting process, and I'm still not used to it, but yeah, man. See where it goes. Take it easy.